Curry's impact to shooting is overrated. People like Dame and Jimmer would have had the same shooting impact. Of course, they're not as good as him, but they would have make those same crazy shots even without Curry. He just came before, so it's like he started it. I saw Dame's rookie year. I find it hard to believe that Dame would be shooting the shots he's shooting right now if Curry wasn't in the league. If Curry didn't show that you can win with this playstyle. Honestly, that's how I feel. Jimmer Fredette having the same impact as Curry is laughable. Look, I'm being so serious. It doesn't matter who started it. When it comes to impact, it's about the guy that popularizes it more. The guy that people look to as a reference. You know what I'm saying? People look to Curry as a reference and his success as a reference. And as long as any other player in the league doesn't do what Curry did from 2015 to 2017, I don't think any player in the league would have had the same impact as Curry. That's just me. Paul George isn't that bad in the playoffs, but Twitter is on his ass about any bad game or any missed shots. I don't know if I fully agree, but also I don't know if I fully disagree. Cause at this point, the Paul George memes are just Paul George memes. People like to get on Paul George because it's tough, but it's funny. And at this point, to a certain degree, I do feel for Paul George. I feel bad, but also, I don't think he's as bad as a playoff performer. Some people make it out to be. He's had good playoff games. He's had decent playoff series. However, I do feel like he's one of the more streaky players in comparison to all the other stars, and he is prone to have bad playoff games. I'm not gonna sit here and act like Paul George is this extremely underrated playoff performer, but I'm also not gonna sit here and say that Paul George is the worst playoff performer of all time. Even when it comes to star players, there are a lot of players that I feel like have underperformed in the playoffs more than Paul George. Zach LaVine is better than Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell. Now, I feel like this is a good take to talk about because as we saw this year, man, empty stats. You can't just look at a player, see that he's putting up stats, and see that he's losing and just call him an empty stats player, because the prime examples of proving that theory wrong are still in the playoffs. Like Trae Young in his second year in the league was getting a lot of flack for, averaging 30 points and 10 assists, however, losing a lot of games. And then we go into this year, and it's not like he has this super stacked team, but as long as you give Trae Young a really good coach and a competent supporting cast, he can win games and win playoff series. And we saw the same with Devin Booker in the Western Conference. You give him Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton gets better. You give him a really good coach in Monty Williams, a deep roster. He can win you games. So now we have Zach LaVine, who is right now in the situation that Devin Booker and Trae Young were in like last year, before this year. So I don't want to push this take too much away because it might come back to bite me in the ass next year. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't think there's a big gap between Zach LaVine, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, and that, that area, Bradley Beal, that sort of tier in the NBA. I don't think there's a big gap anyways. CP3 isn't as pivotal to the Suns' playoff success as people make it out to seem. I disagree. And I've had these conversations with people too about what if Trae Young was on the Phoenix Suns? Would they be as good with Trae Young on the team instead of Chris Paul? You can make the case that the Phoenix Suns talent-wise get better with Trae Young. And Trae Young might be a better fit for the Phoenix Suns when you just look at talent and play styles. However, when you hear players like DeAndre Ayton owe a lot of their success this year to Chris Paul and his leadership, I can't just, again, turn that aspect of the game away. And maybe it has been overblown a little bit because, again, people just want to see Chris Paul make the finals, get his first ring. But nah, Chris Paul has performed so well in these playoffs and in certain pivotal moments, certain pivotal series that I can't talk about he didn't mean as much as people want to make it seem. I don't want to go that route. So I would have to disagree with this take. While I'm not saying this championship doesn't count, it should be taken with a grain of salt, as most championships are won by the best team. This year is won by the healthiest team. See, when it comes to the injury talk, this is where I draw the line. Again, I feel like it's important to use context. Yes, let's not act like this season is not an anomaly and these injuries happen every single year. But also, I don't want to be on the side of the fence that just takes away everything that the Phoenix Suns and the Hawks and the Bucks were able to accomplish because of the injuries of other players that they may not have had a direct effect on. You know what I'm saying? You beat who's in front of you. So for Laser Z, this guy on the screen right now, to say that this championship should be taken with a grain of salt, I disagree. Now, will winning a championship this year be as impressive as Dirk's ring? No. Again, even before the injuries this year, going into this year, I already knew that championships are not created equal. Certain championships are more impressive than other championships, but that doesn't take away the fact that you still won it. Yo, this guy wanted to just rapid fire the takes with me, so let me rapid fire answer these ones without, you know, much explanation. Number 1, accolades don't matter. Disagree. Number 2, being clutch doesn't matter. Disagree. Bam Adebayo is a top 3 player under 24. Off of the top of my head, disagree. Kevin Garnett is a top 7 player ever. Disagree. Paul George peaked higher than Allen Iverson did. Debatable, but right now, disagree. Quinn Snyder deserves more blame for the Jazz's loss to the Clippers than Rudy Gobert. I agree. And it's tough because, again, Quinn Snyder is one of my favorite coaches in the league. I feel like he's honestly been an underrated coach in the league, and what he's done, especially since D Mitch has come into the league, with the success of the team, I think is underrated. However, when it came to that series, when the defense they run in game 6, and I didn't even watch the full game because I was busy that night, but I went back to the highlights, and the defense they were running against the Clippers just didn't make any sense. When you see those shots is going in the way they were, I don't know how you leave Rudy Gobert on the court still. When you see he's barely being effective on the one aspect of the game he's on the floor for, I don't know why you don't take him out of the game. So I agree with this take. DeMarcus Cousins would still be the best center in the league if he never got injured. Now, I talked about the empty stats thing today, and I ain't gonna lie, for majority of Boogie's career, I was on the empty stats wave, you know what I'm saying? And then he teamed up with AD, and he was winning games. With help, he was winning games. Very impactful player. However, Jokic is better. I feel like Embiid's defensive capabilities, along with how good he is offensively, and in my opinion, how more consistent he is offensively, puts him over DeMarcus Cousins. When it comes to Karl Anthony Towns and Bam Adebayo, look, there's a conversation to be had. DeMarcus Cousins in his prime, I feel like is gonna go down as one of the most underrated talents in the league. The same way, honestly, like Chris Webber. A lot of people don't talk about how good Chris Webber was in his prime, and I feel like DeMarcus Cousins, yes, he didn't win like Chris Webber did, but in my opinion, I feel like he's gonna go down as one of the most underrated talents in NBA history. God damn, what is up with these rapid fire hot takes, man? Okay, let's do it. Maybe it's a new format on the show. Stephen Curry is the 3rd best point guard of all time, not second. Disagree. Nash, CP3, Stockton, Russ over Isaiah, Zeke, Thomas. Disagree. Stockton, Russ, oh my god. There's a reasonable argument for Magic and Bird to not be top 10 players of all time. I thought he just missed a G. I disagree. KG is a top 10 player again. Yo, what's up with these KG stands, man? Disagree. Steph Curry has a top 5 peak of all time, arguably, and I would tend to agree off the top of my head. Harden's playoff failures are massively overblown. Disagree. The Atlanta Hawks will be the bubble heat and perform worse next season. Is that the term now? Bubble heat, the team that like goes crazy in the playoffs and then, you know, dies down. Side note, a lot of people have forgotten in the 2020 playoffs, the Toronto Raptors were like on pace to win 60 games. Went to 7 games in the second round, I believe. Yeah, second round. And then this season just tanked. And that was primarily because of injuries, but you could also say the same for the Heat. With the Hawks next season, y'all hating, man. Hey, why would you put this energy in the world, man? I like the Hawks. I would like to disagree. I would like to disagree and believe that the Atlanta Hawks are actually one of the brightest young teams in the Eastern Conference, and they have more to prove. But that's gonna be it for today's video, man. Go ahead, follow me on Twitter if you want to be featured in a future iteration of this series on the channel. But with that being said, I'm out. Peace.